Hello, friends. This is Waylon, and I want to talk about something I'm going through right now and offer a little advice about it based on the fact that we all go through this, all of us, at different times, small ways, big ways, all the time, and how to do it mindfully, how to do it sort of from that Buddhist lens. I grew up in this Buddhist community, Buddhist family, Buddhist teachings, and it informed me in most of the things I do. It doesn't make me wise or Buddhisty or perfect or even close, but it does really help. So I have a huge, big, complicated decision to make with lots of moving parts. My mom is getting older. All of us are getting older. And the question is, do I move to Canada to be there, get some quality time in, help her out more, sell my house that I've invested 1 million hours of love in and that I hope to raise a family in, move across the country, give up any political career that I could have here, We don't need to go through the whole thing. But basically, how do you make a huge life decision? And this is something that we all go through. So a huge life decision. First of all, there's a lot of moving parts to big life decisions. With me, there's like 8 different pieces, and I could walk you through the whole thing, but probably that's extra. But just to say that it's not yes or no, it's yes or no on one thing, yes or no on another thing, yes or no on another thing, yes or no, or maybe on another thing, yes or no, or maybe on another thing. And then 8 of those all cross connecting, and this whole world is interdependent. So it's easy to get very confused. So the first step is how to give good advice. I recently met with my friend Dana, and she gave me good advice. So what was the thing that I was hoping she would do that she did? So the first thing she did is she listened. She came in with ideas, she came in with values, she came in with life experience. But the first thing that she did was she said, lay it all out on the table for me. And that, as the person who's confused, who's looking for wisdom and guidance, that gave me tons of relaxation, because I knew I wouldn't have to kind of be like, oh yeah, that's great, that's helpful, but I have to explain other stuff. I have a chance to run for mayor here, or city council. I have I have an office I could sell, but I won't make much money from that. There's so many different factors. I want to try to buy a little place for my mom. This is kind of why I want to try to buy a place for her, because she loves to garden. She loves to, she's a birder. And these are probably, the best youngest 5 years of her life for the next 5 years. So anyway, there are a million different factors, and she allowed me to lay them all out. She listened. So the corollary to that is how to take good advice. The first step in taking good advice is to insist that the person dispensing good advice listens first. Because if they don't listen, they don't know all the factors. And if they don't know all the factors, it can be a little bit, like that term mansplaining, where someone's coming in with preconceptions, male, female, other, and they have a solid idea of what works and why and blah, 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 and they want to foist that upon you. And however well-intentioned that is, it's not going to be that helpful ultimately, because they don't know all the factors. So the first step in giving good advice, the first step in taking good advice, is to make sure you've laid out all the different factors. At that point, and you do it succinctly, you do it with a little color commentary, because emotions are part of these factors, but you don't need to go all into your confusion and your dreams and all that. You lay it out clearly. So in terms of getting good advice, lay it out clearly and insist you do that first. In terms of giving it, listen first. And then see how that matches up with your preconceived thoughts, many of which may be accurate and helpful. And then how to make a big decision, a big life decision. This is something I'm doing right now. This is something I've done 1,000 different times with my business, with buying a home, with whatever I've done in my life. If I travel, which I hadn't done much, I grew up with a single mom, So I didn't know how to do a lot of things that involved money or traveling or whatever. I never traveled till I was 39. Never had a credit card until I was like 39, something like that. So, I learned as I went, and I was good at some things and woefully, just not knowledgeable about other things. So in terms of figuring out major life decisions, for me, the biggest first step is meet with 100 people, ask advice of everyone, whether it's, you run into someone you respect at a cafe or a library, be bold enough to say, hey, what do you think about this? You can lay out the things. If it's clear there's not enough time, you say, maybe if you'd be willing, I'd love to, take you out for lunch or coffee and just, bend your ear a bit. Generally, people will be willing if they like you, if there's some sense of listening and eye contact, respect, warmth. And hearing different life experiences and advice from, this is the other part of that third thing, which is how to make a major life decision. You meet with 100 people, you lay it out. As you do so, like a teacher, you begin to understand the lesson that you're giving, or in this case, the wisdom you're looking for. You begin to understand the situation better by explaining it repeatedly. So eventually you get to this point where the moving pieces are really clearly identified. It's like you've washed the mud off of all these things and you're starting to see the shape beneath the mud of what you're dealing with. And you need to come at it with a fresh experience every time. So you're not just working through your solid preconceptions. There's a lot of fresh mind here, and a lot of that can come from breath work, meditation, exercise, eating right, being present in your life. So you come at it from a fresh point of view. Then you need to have a willingness to not only listen with respect and warmth and take advice and listen, even if you disagree with stuff, but you need to have the cojones, or I'm sure there's a better term, the guts to speak up for yourself, because it is important that you don't just take any advice. There's a notion that, someone comes in and says, oh, you should definitely run for mayor. You should definitely stay in Boulder. You can't give up your house. You can't sell your house. Well, in my case, I don't have enough money to keep this house rented out. Do I even want to rent it out? And, have people run around in my precious home and be able to afford something in Canada if I'm moving up there. So you have to have the willingness to, even as you're gratefully accepting helpful advice, be willing to disagree, not out of defensiveness, but out of, again, presenting those facts. Because the more they know, like a doctor, a good doctor needs to know everything before prescribing a course forward. So how to give good advice? Listen first. How to get good advice? Lay it all out, color commentary succinctly, but all of it first. How to make a major life decision? Meet with as many people who you respect and like and have a connection with, whether it's casually or formally. Hopefully most of it is formal. I have a lot of lunches, a lot of coffees lined up. Probably met with like 3 people about it in the last 2 days. And then be willing to disagree. Again, not out of defensiveness, but out of knowing, like in Buddhism, they say, always trust the principal one. The principal one is me in this case. Only you know all of your situation. Only I know all of my situation. However, you and I may not have enough perspective on our own situations. So meeting with people, that's where like the riches, I think there's like 6 riches traditionally in India or Buddhism. One of them is having ministers in your life. One of them is having a general in your life. One of them is having a partner in your life. So these are people in our lives who we respect enough and their life experience to connect with them eye to eye and learn from them and listen to them. And after you meet with 100 people who have 100 different ideas, you start finding what your truth is. And I don't like that term, your truth, because there is facts, there is science, there is truth, objectively on some level, although I think that's the wrong term for it. It's too cold. But my truth ultimately is going to be nuanced and clear in terms of my course of action. Am I going to move? Am I going to stay? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? because I know all those factors. And once I've talked about them enough with folks, clarity will come, no matter how far away it feels right now. So that's it. How to give advice, how to get advice, and how to make major life decisions. Hope that was vaguely interesting. If you enjoyed this, please share it. Please comment. Please, get us in your notifications whenever we go live. Please subscribe if you're on Union, and may it be of benefit. I hope this was vaguely helpful to even one of you. It's been helpful to me. Thank you.